Hello everyone, this is The Amateur. Welcome to my channel where we're here just to talk life, hobbies, politics, ideologies, what have you. And on today's episode, we're going to be reacting to a video that was recently put out by the Black Conservative Perspective. And so just a little quick background on him. I mean, it's really on the name. It's a YouTube channel whose name is Greg, but goes by Black Conservative Perspective. And he is Black and he's conservative, and he just gives his perspective on news that comes out. And for this particular video, he was responding to a young figure skater who had denounced her American citizenship in order to go compete in the Olympics. And I'll just go ahead and show the video.
Zhu, who was born in California but gave up her American citizenship to compete for China in 2018, began the women's free skate event well, landing both her first two jumps before falling on a triple flip attempt, according to Yahoo Sports. Okay, so this woman, right, decided that she loved China so much that she gave up her American citizenship to compete for China, right? So she's a traitor, right? She's a flat out traitor, right? You were born in California. I believe her parents are immigrants, right? They're Chinese nationals, which, I mean, hey, you know, there's an argument to be made that maybe she shouldn't have been an American in the first place, right? Because in my opinion, I think that citizenship should be through blood. I really do. Okay, I really don't like the fact that you can just kind of immigrate over here to the United States as a foreigner and you can have a baby here and then the baby is just automatically American because they was born on American soil. I really don't like that, okay? I understand that that's how it is, but I think it should be by blood, right? I think that American citizenship should be a blood right? That's what I think, okay? And, you know, the way this stuff is currently set up right now, again, it incentivizes people to come over here, you know, on, you know, visas or whatever, tourist visas, and they just hire kids, right? To make sure that their kids are American citizens. And now all of a sudden they become a burden on the taxpayer simply because some foreigners had a kid on our soil. I think it's really ridiculous, right? So who knows? Maybe she shouldn't have been an American in the first place, right? Maybe she shouldn't have been an American in the first place.
So some pretty strong words from him, right? So this is really two-part. So first, I just want to address the actual issue that he was addressing, which was the supposed traitor of Zhu Yi going to China to compete. And I just feel like traitor is such a strong word, and especially like in the States where if someone is guilty of treason, like that's punishable by death still. So like it's a little bit of a strong word, and let's just kind of pull it back a little bit, but it's also just kind of understanding the full picture where she was like 15. She was like 15 years old when she'd moved to China and denounced her American citizenship. That was the first time that she had competed for China because China doesn't allow dual citizenship. You can only be a citizen of China to compete in their Olympics. But it's also the fact that she was from California, and I mean, like, you've seen California.
That we just stand and then, you know, we say it to nothing. And I'm like, oh, well, you know, I gotta find it. Like, I'm working on it. I got you. In the meantime, I tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he like looks around and he goes, oh, that one?
Again, 4 women run off after stealing from a CVS pharmacy at Van Ness and Jackson in San Francisco.
That looks great. Hold on.
Dropping hangers as they make off with their illegal of retail robberies.
It's pretty scary. It's scary.
Oakland, California sure does have a homeless problem. Driving around town, there's homeless encampments all over the place. Look at this one in West Oakland. This one is sort of sanctioned by the city, meaning they don't run them off. Sometimes it's easier to keep them in one place so they can monitor them and provide support.
Like you've seen California. It's a leftist woke wasteland. I don't know. I mean, not all of California, but as far as like everything that's been pushing out. What in the matter though is like, don't expect for her education to have been completely holistic and moral based and founded on truth. For her to have a firm understanding of what it means to denounce her citizenship. So one, she's like a child. 2, she was from California. And so let's like put that in perspective before calling her a traitor and she doesn't deserve to be an American and all this other stuff. But The second point that he was making, which seemed to have more of a fuss in the comments, was him not wanting just to be born on American soil to quantify or classify somebody as American, calling it a blood right. And a lot of people weren't understanding what he was saying, but his observation is actually extremely astute. And I will explain it all, but it all goes back to marriage. Marriage and actually the Jews. And so it's marriage in a sense, but when I say marriage, that's going to be like a whole other video, because that's a springboard for a whole other video. It's just so amazing how God is. It's like truly amazing who God is and what he has done for us. So, but it starts with the Jews. So the Jews are not a race. I say again, the Jews are not a race. They were actually called to be a nation unto God. And so just because Hitler thought that the Jews were a race or something of a specific physical characteristics, they were not actually a race. And I've been saying this in the comments of my video defending Whoopi Goldberg's statement. And this is a paradigm or something that has been said, and I just kind of tweaked it a little bit. But it's just like, if a man tells you to call a dog's tail a leg, how many legs does the dog now have? A fool will blindly believe and accept the premises and the principles of anything that someone tells him and will say proudly 5 legs. But a wise man who stands firm on truth and sees through the lies will still say 4, knowing that just because you call a tail a leg does not make it one. And this is also further reflected in the Bible in Proverbs, and I'll go ahead and just read that real quick. So this is Proverbs chapter 26, verses 4 through 5. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he become wise in his own eyes. So just again explaining that is like, if you accept the principles of someone who is foolish, and you take that and you're like, yeah, you're right, then you become the fool yourself. And also, if you accept it according to the fool's follies, if you accept his premises, accept what he says, he's gonna think that he's right and that he's the smart one, right? So like, don't do that. And I think this is also, there's another verse, still Proverbs. People are sleeping on Proverbs. I'll tell you that. Proverbs is such a beautiful book. And then the next one, again on these lines, is Proverbs chapter 14, verses 15, which says, the simple man believes every word, but the prudent man watches his step. A wise man fears and turns from evil, but a fool is careless and reckless. Okay, so just again, you can understand why someone thinks something, but also not accept its premise, because you know that it's foolish and stupid, which is everything that deals with a race. Okay? I say again, the Jews are not a race. They are actually called to be a nation unto God. Okay? And so, well, I'll start here in order to explain on that. Goes back to Genesis. And so just anyone who's outside looking in, the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, are all supposed to be exactly as is written in the Torah. Okay, so like what I say from the Bible, it also says in the Torah. I'm not saying anything that contradicts the Jewish belief. But understand, so going back to Genesis verse 10, we have the sons of Noah. So this is following the flood. God had already done his work. People had sinned. He flooded the earth, washed it anew, covenant promise of the rainbow. Now we have Noah. So Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And so the sons of Japheth became the Japhethites. The sons of Ham became the Hamites. And the sons of Shem became the Semites. The Semites. Okay, so this is where we get the word Semitism or anti-Semite. Like Semite, this comes from Shem, who was son of Noah. Just so we're all on the same page here. And then in Genesis chapter 11, this is where we get the genealogy from Shem to Abram, who was then made Abraham. But from Shem to Abram is about 6 or 7 generations. And Abraham is important because he is considered to be the father of Judaism, or the father of the Abrahamic language, Abrahamic religions. But essentially, Abraham is important because this is who God revealed himself to, and I'll read it from Genesis chapter 12. Then the Lord said to Abraham, leave your country, your kindred, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. And so this is the foundation for everything else that we later get into the rest of the Bible. So this story is later reflected again in the New Testament in Acts chapter 7 verses 1 through 8, and then additionally this is also again later reflected, because like the Bible just hyperlinks itself, but this is later reflected in Acts 17 verses 24 to 26, which I had previously read in another video, but it states again, the God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples made by human hands, nor is he served by human hands as if he needed anything, because he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. From one man he made every nation of men, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their lands. So essentially what we read as well in the beginning of Genesis is how all the sons later scattered to whatever ends of the earth that they scattered to, but think nation, though not race, nation not race. But continue on with Abraham. So Abraham had a son, or he had two sons, I believe, but the main son that we're talking about is Isaac, and then from Isaac he begat Jacob. And then in Genesis chapter 32, we saw that Jacob had wrestled with a man who was also God or something on those lines. But from that action, he was named Israel. Okay, so this is where the word Israel, oh my gosh, Israel, oh my gosh. But this is where this comes from, Israel meaning fighter of God. And so how you see how they named the Japhethites, Hamites, Shemites, from Israel, all of his sons are Israelites. And then Israel, Jacob, one of his many sons, he had Judah, okay? And this is important because we have the tribes of Judah. Judah is where we get the word Judaism, as well as so a Jew. But essentially with here there was a prophecy that the scepter would not leave from Judah's bloodline or something along those lines. So this is where we get David and Solomon, King David, King Solomon, and the Messiah. So that was the importance of Judah. And so again, so this is the origin of Judah. So from this is all Genesis. So this all later leads to Exodus, enter Prince of Egypt, enter Moses, where the Hebrews were enslaved and they needed to later be freed and go to the promised land. So a set territory, a set land where they were called to then set themselves up, the Israelites, to be a nation unto God. Okay, so this is important because everything that God instructed in Leviticus was meant to essentially be their government. So their government was supposed to be set up for God. And so this is everything that was 613 mitzvot, or the Leviticus. It's for the Bibles, it's the chapter of Leviticus. But essentially, these were all the laws that Israel was called to uphold in order to set them apart from all the other nations, all the other lands, all the other things that the paganism and whatever they were practicing. So that was the purpose of this, and the purpose of this was for to set up Israel to be God's bride. And this is like a whole other beautiful story, truly beautiful story that I don't really have time to get into. But the point of all this is that like Israel, the Jewish, were set up to be a nation, not a race. And this is even according to Torah law, which states, and like Torah law, which states that it's the child of a Jewish woman or a believing Jewish woman is also Jewish. And to convert, because this is their nation, these are their laws, right? So in order to convert to Judaism, you must be willing to uphold and keep the Mosaic laws, those commandments, in order to be considered a Jew or a part of the Judaic nation. And this is actually a kind of reflected again in Acts. In Acts chapter 16, verses 1 through 3. It's just a very quick, brief little blurb, but it further confirms what I'm saying here, which is saying, so it just reads, Paul came to Derbe and then to Lystra, where he found a disciple named Timothy, the son of a believing Jewish woman and a Greek father. So Timothy, even though he's both Greek and of Jewish, he's also considered Jewish. Okay, so the brothers in Lystra and Iconium spoke well of him. Paul wanted Timothy to accompany him, so he took him and circumcised him on account of the Jews in that area, for they all knew that his father was a Greek. Okay, so again, this is a part of the laws that were established, to set up Israel as a nation, apart from everyone else, to be unto God. And so, back to Greg's point, to the Black conservative perspective's point, like, I think it's a very astute observation that he make, and I think it's something that once we recognize this is how Israel had functioned, especially biblically, this is what he is trying to promote. And so I think what this has us do is it has us understand that nationality and nations are less of a social construct than we think they are. And so that that holds more weight and a little bit more value than does race, like 100% more weight and value than just race alone, because race is like just completely made up. And the New Testament further tests like all nations who are unto God or who follow what God says are blessed, or something along those lines. I have to find specifically what it says, but. For this, though, I just wanted to go into a quick understanding of what it means, or what nation means, according to just the definition. And so Google has the definition of nation as a large body of people united by a common descent, history, culture, or language, inhabiting a particular country or territory. So that is essentially what it means to nation. And that is pretty much everything that the Jewish people had done. They had their promised land, they had their land that was set out for them, they had their laws, the Mosaic laws, the commandments, all the things that were written in Leviticus that was for them and for their people. Those weren't necessarily moral laws, but they were laws of the government and laws for their people to practice and follow in order to set themselves up as a nation unto God, separate from everyone else, so that Israel could be God's bride later. And again, a completely wonderful analogy that is just quite amazing. And so to this point, though, so with Greg, the fault was that he, with this blood right, which everyone seemed to be just so caught up on, but like the problem was just that we couldn't say birthright, because right now birthright means just being born on American soil and you're American. So he was trying to add a genetic or a familial tie to this application. And I think particularly with this, he was also wanting it to pertain to children, so those who are age 0 through 17. But essentially what he's saying with all of this is that in order to be American for children, that you must be born of at least one American parent. So it's something where we have a legal immigration process, though that's seems to be widely ignored, but we do have a legal immigration process where that in order to be American, you have to be legally recognized by the country as a citizen, someone that's actually willing and able to follow the laws and that will uphold the values that we want to espouse as a country. And so that this is something that the citizenship status for kids can be granted post-birth, as far as with if a immigrated family comes to America and then they have kids, so kids being 0 to 17, and their parents gain citizenship status, then as long as their kids are 0 to 17, then they're automatically citizens as well. And it's also something where if you have an American couple that they go abroad overseas, they have a child, like their child is still American because the parents are American. Because a lot of other countries don't do it, where just simply being born there makes you a member of that country. Like no other country does it like that. And so that's kind of what he was pertaining to. And again, like this is something very similar to how Judaism and the Jewish nation, like how that works, as far as with must be born of a Jewish mother in order to be considered Jewish, and like or having converted to like having immigrated into that nation and are adhering to all the laws that are called on you. And so I don't like, for me, like that's that we definitely missed here, especially by just focusing on race so much, because it's something where the values, what you believe, and the things that we uphold hold more priority than what you look like. And it's something where, like, at least even in the Pledge of Allegiance, how we're supposed to be one nation under God. So meaning that we are one nation who prescribes to the morality that God upholds. And I think it was John Adams. Let me see if I can't find this quote. But John Adams had also stated, what did he say? He said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other," meaning that the way that the Constitution and everything else was designed was meant for a people who upholds the moral beliefs that are found in Christianity. It doesn't say you had to be a Christian, but you had to uphold the moral beliefs within that system. Or that was the intent, and that was how it was designed. And so I just thought that was a pretty smart way for it to go. And so these are the values and morals and beliefs that we want to uphold as expressed by the laws that we espouse, or the laws that we want to create. And so this is something, because it's something where you don't necessarily... So what this might look like as far as with dual citizenship, it might be something where if an immigrant is coming from a country whose values and beliefs are completely opposite of what we are trying to espouse and uphold, that in order for that immigrant to be a legal U.S. citizen, to become an American, they have to denounce that nationality in order to be American. But there are cases where, if the nationality of what their laws and what they believe in and uphold are similar to American, that you can maintain your dual citizenship. But I think right now America does not have any hold against any other country, as far as America doesn't make anyone denounce their citizenship in order to be an American citizen as well. I think except for maybe some parts of the military, depending on what it is that they do. And I just thought that this was very like something that we needed to focus more on. And so instead of having us go into these stupid subsects like saying I'm African American, or I'm Irish American, I'm Polish American, I'm Brazilian American, or whatever, it's just like I'm American. This is the country that I'm upholding, and this is where I am. And I guess you might be able to say that if you are actively holding citizenship in both of those countries. But if you're not, then like if you're American, just being American, and that's all that we ask of you. And being American, again, the values, beliefs that we uphold, which are currently in shambles. I think this is something that we do need to firmly establish or reestablish, because right now, people are trying to deconstruct the foundation of America. And this is something that I also wanted to say, because this is something that I just observed on some of my many travels. I am a world traveler, but one of my travels took me up to Finland, which is one of these Scandinavian countries, and one of the ones that's always talked about for its socialist, capitalist regime and whatnot. But they're very homogenous as a people, as far as a lot of them look very much alike, and they all agree to and uphold their government, whereas right now we're very much divided. But it was something where I took a cooking class, and in the class was a Scottish woman who had a very thick Scottish accent, because she was from Scotland. Excuse me, but it came up where she essentially was saying like she had Japanese heritage somewhere down the line, but it was something so that's what she looked Asian, but with a very thick Scottish accent, because again, that's where she's from. But it's something where she doesn't say she's Japanese Scottish, she's just Scottish because that's where she's from, that's where her citizenship status is. Those are, you know, the beliefs and rules and laws that she will choose to uphold because that's what's expected of her. And it's something, I think it was something similar too as well with I think it was a British tennis player that had just won a tennis open, or was like super young for winning like the Grand Slam title. I can't remember. I'll probably like post a picture or something. But anyway, she was an immigrant, and someone tried to comfort her for her immigrant status, but it's just like most people just consider her to be British because that is her citizenship. Like we don't say, like no one said she was from wherever she came from, because I don't know, from wherever she came from, British. She was just British because that's what she is. Like they don't look at the, like once you're no longer an immigrant because you're a legal citizen of that country, like that is what you are. So it's like this weird dynamic as far as to Greg's point, to highlight the how so race focused that we are, that we kind of miss the bigger picture. Excuse me. And so it's something where instead of focusing on race, instead of focusing on what we look like and whatever it is that we did come from, but just focus on where we are now and what it is that we're trying to uphold. And so, in summary, with this kind of long video, what I would like to take away from this is that, one, the Jews are not a race, they are a nation. And that if we start to focus more on that, what it is that we believe in and what it is that we want to uphold, and the values that we want to espouse, instead of race, that we might be able to make a better country than it is now. But those are just my thoughts, and I don't know how much I did or did not get wrong, because I am just an amateur. But leave a comment for anything that you found insightful. Like, I don't know if you guys know, I love reading your comments and responding to them. Like I've been writing essays for a lot of y'all in the comments. But please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.